Okay, so hi everyone, and welcome to this channel where people share their awakening stories. And actually, when you think these topics are important, I would be very happy if you could just hit the subscribe button because it helps to spread these kind of topics, and also share um, your ideas and comments. And when you also want to reach out, like when you have an own experience, which you kind of are on loose ends, what to do with it, please consider just sharing with us, and maybe we can get in touch with you. So right now, today, I'm very happy to say welcome to David.
Hello, Catherine.
Thank you for tuning in, and I'm actually very excited to hear your story and a bit of your insights. And for everyone who's watching, we are actually also starting soon to do group chats, which is a bit difficult to organize because we're from all different places. So like 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. is something different for each other. So, but we try. And also there, if somebody's interested, just give us a comment. So, David, let's start with your story, and just let us know, like, what are you doing right now in your life? How is it going? And then we can dive into your story.
Thank you very much. Thank you as well for hosting this broadcast. It's really great to be talking with you. My name's David Bingham, and I live at the moment in Liverpool. I was born in Liverpool in the UK, and I'm shortly moving to Western Crete, so I'm looking forward to living over there and to having friends and visitors come from time to time and do some meditations. So it's a nice, exciting time in my life to have a transition over to Crete.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of sun.
Yeah, I wear a big hat. But
Yeah.
strangely enough, when it's really hot, it's actually a good idea to go to the beach and just go in the sea, and it cools you
Mm,
down a bit. So it's uh, it's a
mm.
nice way to do it. And then if you've got a shade on the beach, it's not too bad either. So
Yeah,
uh,
wonderful.
sorry, I'm making it sound like an awful existence, but
No, don't worry. So yeah, um, so let's go back where actually your journey started. Maybe you just tell your story, how it all came. Did you have any interest into spirituality before, or how did it happen for you?
I think I've always been a sensitive person, but I've always been, for a large portion of my life, quite a blocked person as well, just getting on with conventional life and putting the strange stuff or occasionally strange stuff behind me because I had no explanation for it.
Mm.
Uh, but my major awakening, which was a Kundalini form of awakening, which I didn't know at the time, was that happened about 7 years ago in July 2017.
Mhm.
And it was quite unusual circumstances, but everyone's awakening, of course, is very different. So I had a sense of a memory coming back to me from a very long time ago, from when I was, well, I'm 62 now, but it was when I was 8 years old. And I was, it had been buried. Well, not buried in the sense of hiding, but it had been shelved away and not accessed for maybe 45 years or more, you know.
Oh,
And it's amazing what we shelve away sometimes. And it was quite an esoteric event that happened when I was about 8 years old. And I may as well explain that first, if that's okay.
yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was with my family, my mother and father and my sister, my elder sister, and we were on holiday, well, a little break in Devon, and at the time the roads weren't very good, and my dad got tired driving at night, so we pulled over into this country inn, this old country inn, which I later found out is actually the original Jamaica Inn on Bodmin Moor. So we didn't know that at the time, and booked in, and 2 rooms upstairs in the old part of the inn. And I just remember in the night that my sister, I was woken by my sister getting up, and I had a little word with her, and said, "What's going on?" And she said, "Well, I just want to check if Mum's okay." And of course, that seemed like a good idea, but it's the middle of the night, and she left the dark room that we were in and went out into the bright corridor, and took one step and then came back in again. And I said, "What's up?" And she said, "Oh, don't worry, it's nothing. Just don't go out there." So,
Oh my God.
sorry, it's a bit creepy, this story, but
I love it.
it's the way it is. You have to.
Yeah, exactly.
The truth can be creepy sometimes.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was a young, determined kid, full of love for my mother, of course, and I thought, well, I'll obey my sister. She doesn't want me to get out of bed and do this, but I'll wait for her to fall asleep. And she quickly pulled the covers over. I think she was sort of had a bit of a scare or something. She was covered, and so I waited about 15 minutes, and then I went out into this dark corridor, and the lit corridor, and took 2 steps, and was hit by some kind of thing I'd never encountered before, a kind of whirlwind force, an energetic whirlwind force, some kind of entity, being, whatever you want to call it. But it literally had the strength of a whirlwind.
And it was uncomfortable?
No, it was like being caught in a whirlwind. If you can imagine that. If you can imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It was slightly
like a bad
uncomfortable.
energy.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because, yes, there was the energy grew in proportion to my effort to push along the corridor to go to my parents' room, and it eventually became like a gale force wind. All the windows are shut. It's like it's just a closed corridor in an old hotel, and I ended up almost kicking and screaming for my mum, and holding on to the sides of the corridor as I was being dragged by the wind.
Wow.
It was really that strong, and I was a determined little beggar. So I got up to my parents' room and shouting and for my mum. And then eventually someone who appeared to be my mum came to the door and didn't come out and console me like normally she would. But she looked a bit anxious, and she just said, "Get back to your room." And because I thought it was my mum, I obeyed, and the wind immediately died down. And I could just tell that it wanted me to go back to my room. So I went back to my room, and the kind of effort that I put in to fight that wind was immense. I didn't really appreciate it at the time, but I got in well over my head. But I was just fighting with my heart and my fierce love, for wanting to get to my goal. And so when I went back to my room and pulled over the covers, I was trembling like a leaf. I put in a massive effort. It had been a traumatic thing, really, but also I felt a little bit young warrior thing, like I'd done my best.
Yeah.
So
But,
it's like,
can I ask you, like the
yes.
whirlwind, did it like pull like a bad feeling onto you, or was it just a feeling you had on your own, being fearful of this energy?
It had its own intelligence and purpose,
and
and
you
it seemed
felt
like,
that.
yes, and it didn't particularly. I don't think it wanted to hurt me. It wanted to push me back into the room, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that and what I remembered I checked out with my sister in recent years because we'd never talked about it, because it just became a story that I buried because I didn't know who to talk to about it. I didn't tell my parents or anything, and didn't tell her really, because we weren't very communicative as a family. But also, where do you start to talk about things like that? So basically, I just shelved it and just sat on it, and But my sister told me recently that in the morning she was having breakfast first with my mother before I came down. And my mother said to her, "I thought you and David were trying to get in touch with me last night."
Wow.
So it wasn't my mother at the door.
This is crazy. How old was your sister?
About 14, I think, or 13, something like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, yes, that experience came back to me, and I wanted to make an inquiry because I sort of felt like, wow, I've got this memory back again. I recalled it, and I wanted to.
How did it come back? Sorry to.
Well, I was having a very fulfilling time doing a project in Poland with writing a book and bringing an artist back to life. And I was feeling actually, in a sort of nice way, I was feeling very good about myself and my life. And maybe that kind of deep, settled feeling, fulfilled feeling, allowed me again to just wonder, because I was sitting over a coffee and it just came back to me, what on earth was that? And I thought, well, I'm big enough and old enough now to maybe have another look at it. I wanted to have another look. And I thought, because, maybe in 10 or 15, 20 years' time, I'll be a bit past it a little bit. But my energy's good. I've got this memory back. Let's have another look and see what's going on in that situation. So I got in touch with a friend who's a counselor therapist, and also he'd been a shaman before. And I talked with him, and he suggested, and I agreed to have a go for the first time at hypnotherapy.
Wow.
Well, I went to the first session, and the subject of the first session was trying to recall the event. He was a good hypnotherapist. He wasn't guiding me in any way. It was just helping me relax and go deeper. It's almost like a meditative state, but just with a little bit extra, perhaps just to settle you down even more. So what happened was I could recall the event again, but mostly the memory was intact. So it was like only fine details. It wasn't like there's things I've been blocked out because I've been traumatized and that kind of stuff. It wasn't like that. It was like I could mostly remember it. But then halfway through the session, what happened was that the deep recording of the event that hit me so hard when I was 8 somehow must have been stored in my body still all those years later, and it started to come back again. It's like our body's like a CD recording or something. I don't know what it is, but the cellular memory or something. But basically, I went through that experience that I felt again in the bed, the sort of trembling, the sort of shock, crying, the tremors of it all, the great fight as well, the feeling of, being in some kind of crazy battle that got out of hand. All of those feelings came back to me as though they'd only just happened exactly at that moment. So I don't know how things are recorded in us that way, but it was there anyway. And of course, I felt some benefit from feeling that again. It was like a slight release from that situation.
Wow.
So the second session, I went to him, and I had a separate issue. And I said, this thing's bugging me because I wasn't very much into spirituality, but obviously I read things now and then. And I noticed that more recently, when I'd been reading certain books, that I found myself involuntarily falling asleep.
This
I was
is
being shut
amazing.
down.
Yeah.
Have you had that? Have you been shut down
No,
sometimes?
but yeah,
No. You've heard of it, yeah.
But actually, one
Yeah.
of my most one of the people I really like to listen to, Adyashanti. I don't know
Yes.
if you know him.
Yes, I've watched his videos. I don't know him. We're not friends.
He's one of the very few legit ones, I think. And he was talking about that actually, like his mother came to his ceremony when his Zen students' years were ending. And she told him afterwards that she really had to fight not falling asleep during this ceremony, and she was so embarrassed. And then actually the teachers, he told them then that this happens quite often, like spiritual teachings are coming, that it's kind of a blockage
Yes, or some
of the
internal management
system
going on.
that
Yes,
doesn't want
yes.
to wake up already. And so which is funny. Did you hear me right now?
Hmm.
It doesn't want to wake up, so it falls asleep. It wants to sleep, so it doesn't have to wake up. It's very fun.
Yes, my impression is the same. There's some internal management going on that's beyond your normal mind self. So basically, I was trying to read the books, and I noticed at certain intervals I was being forced to sleep, and I noticed even my eyes were closing, and it was like I was almost passing out. And I wasn't particularly tired, so I thought, oh gosh, there's something going on here. And so I decided, well, next time I read something and this happens, I'm going to force myself a little and try to stay with my eyes open and see what I can read. So almost like invisible matchsticks I put on, and I was reading the next time, and my eyes were still fixed on the page. And then what happened was the letters started jumbling and falling apart on the page. So it was like I was being shown, no, you don't.
This is so funny. But actually, you know what came to me right
Yeah.
now when I'm talking to
Okay.
you?
Okay.
Maybe I don't think it's like a blockage and we want to fall asleep. Actually, it just came right now. I think that the spiritual, like the spiritual level understands you are ready now to receive. So it wants you to go in another wave, whatever that is, the theta wave where you are. And this is the where you are nearly falling asleep.
Hmm.
It feels like
Yes. I
so.
mean, yes, definitely
No,
being
that
managed.
also could be that they are like, don't read, listen to us. And then they want to bring you into that wave
Yeah.
where you maybe.
Well, it could be, yes. I mean, taking what you're saying, it could be that the intellectualization of reading, mind operation, is something where it's not for you at this time. You don't need to absorb in that way. You need to go a different route, if that's what you mean. Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
So yeah, I had this secondary issue, and so I took that to the hypnotherapy as well. So uh, being, and we just it went quiet again. I went perhaps more deeply than the first time, relaxed. And then I got this almighty surge happening with my body that I never anticipated or experienced. And it was, I've obviously read about it since and things like that, but I had no idea at the time it was a massive Kundalini awakening.
So
And it was, yes.
like you were being scanned.
And no, it was like there was a massive eruption from the base of the spine
Uh-huh.
area
Okay.
of huge energy
Mm-hmm.
uh, shaking its way through my body. It felt like I remember saying this to the guy who was witness to this, who was helping me. I said, I feel like I've been strapped to a Saturn V rocket, like being flown. So it's lucky he was quite tolerant with things going. Because I was shaking at the time like a leaf. The whole body was going, and the arms were flapping around like a baby's arms, might do. It was everything was just coursing through me. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and I know that people have beautiful Kundalini awakenings that are much smoother progressions with less resistance in the body, shall we say. But
Mhm.
this wasn't one of those. This was the power one.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
but I mean, like that moment, it was very powerful. But afterwards, did you have a lot of these movements and kriyas and pain, or
not
yeah,
pain, but kriyas plenty, yes.
yeah.
But there's more to tell in the actual
Hmm.
awakening
Hmm.
itself. I was sitting in this chair, and I felt like this energy rising up through me, and then it reached the zone of the heart, and I felt my heart racing, and it wasn't normal racing. It was like
Yeah.
incredible racing. And I thought to myself, well, perhaps this will kill me. It was like more than an athlete's heart would go. It was like maybe over 250 beats a minute, something crazy.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe this will kill me. And then a very calming voice in my head said, no, just stay with it. It's great. And I stayed with it. Then an immense force, like it felt like either a fist about the size of that, or perhaps it felt alive like a snake's head, was punching at my heart. So it was that knotted heart that I've learned about since. There was a major breakthrough, and the second punch, that these were huge punches, it actually broke through my heart.
Wow.
And then rose up through my body, through my neck, through my head, and straight out of the top of my head. I had no words to describe it at the time, but it felt like a two-way light beam was coming out of my head. It was going in, energy was going in, lots of downloads and interesting stuff, and lots of stuff was going out as well. The connection was a two-way travel zone.
Yeah.
And I'd never had an esoteric experience particularly like that, apart from the one when I was a kid. And it was crazy. It's lucky that I'm a fairly steady character, because it was like a really wild ride.
How
And
long did that last?
maybe 15 minutes.
That
But
long? Wow.
yeah, there was 5 minutes of brain rewiring as well. And literally I could feel, especially the lower part of the brain, the more reptilian connection of the brain, I could feel massive rewiring going on. And it wasn't just like a sense of rewiring, it was like I could feel neural connections moving, thousands of them, and reorganizing, as though a switch had been thrown, and I was just put into this very weird experience. And again, I sort of was asking myself, well, this seems too much, is this is like a horror film, science fiction.
Were you
And
scared?
yeah, well, I must have been scared enough to ask the question,
Yeah.
because
And did
if
you
you,
did you did
yeah,
you hold back? But like
no,
it just worked without you, even
yes, it was.
if,
I
even
I
if
was
you
under the.
resisted, it went with you.
I wasn't resisting, but
No.
I knew, yeah, but I had some residual fear about what on earth is this,
Mhm.
because it's not within my normal range of experience, not, and so again, I've got another voice, the same voice, encouraging me to stay with it, and it was marvelous to hear that, and it got me through.
Yeah.
And within all that experience, I was blasted into, and seems quite common with some Kundalini major awakenings. You're blasted into a warm white space, your consciousness.
Mhm.
And again, I didn't know anything about this at the time, but I found myself basically standing alone in this kind of white space, a bit like one of those space films where everything just disappears.
Mhm.
and then I saw a being in this space, and the being I instantly recognized was myself, and it was my soul self. And because whatever message you get is given to give you a certain symbolism, it was dressed in sort of Persian Alibaba kind of clothes with
Mhm.
silks and stuff like that. But it was me. I
Yeah.
knew it was me, and
Yeah.
I recognized it instantly. And that was amazingly transformative of my psyche, because I realized that this is the being that you are, David. And this is the being that you've always been from your birth to your death. This is the embodiment of your soul. This is you. And this is what you are without any baggage whatsoever, all life's weights that hang on your shoulders, all these things. So it was quite a thing to meet myself, even if it didn't particularly look like me. And it was fascinating as well, because I noticed at the time that, I mean, if you've lived a few years, then you know that you imagine yourself at different periods in your life of having a slightly different persona or personality. So the David who was 6 years old is not the David who was 16 years old, or the
Mhm.
David who was 45 years old.
Yeah.
But what I felt was all these Davids that were imaginary Davids were united and just embraced as one.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
so many people, well, who have those big light experiences from the Kundalini in the head, they encounter their guru. their guide or their God even, I encountered what I felt was my soul spirit. And this, yeah.
Did you recognize then the voice as being that one? Did the one
Yes,
you
it's me.
heard the voice? Yeah.
Yes, it's me as well.
Yeah.
It just the David without any baggage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
It's crazy.
yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating, this sort of internal commentary thing. And wow, you know, so I got blown up that day, and it was it had quite a consequence in the few days afterwards, particularly because I noticed that I was just not just in a daze, but I was in some kind of witness Buddhic type consciousness afterwards. And basically, I had no fear of anything anymore. And particularly the big one that hides within us. I had no fear of death.
Yeah.
I noticed that at one point. And I noticed that the sort of shy, sensitive David, who liked the company of other people, had gone missing. I was quite happy either in company or on my own. Completely didn't matter. So loneliness had disappeared.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's like some big psychic changes, and it was like I was being kept at arm's length from the more troubled side of the psyche. It was like I was given a bit of space so that the process could continue.
And how long did that last? Until you crashed down to normal?
No,
You
well,
didn't
this is
come back?
well, this is interesting because I'm one of those folks who've never come back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because this
I never had a crash
actually
landing.
happens quite
Yeah.
often.
Hmm.
That you kind
Yeah.
of get that
Yeah.
glimpse. For me, it was 2 weeks.
Wonderful. 2 weeks. Great.
Yeah,
Great.
but
That's a long
but
taste. Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
you know, for my awakening was the energy went out, and I
Okay.
was in the middle of a yoga class, and it frightened me because I
Sure.
thought this is going to be embarrassing because I will fall down, I
Other
will,
people will see it as
oh,
well, maybe. Yes. Yes.
So my ego self was like, open your eyes and bring yourself back. So I think the process was not finished.
Yes.
And I pulled myself back with a lot of force.
Good for you.
And I, of course, then I thought, well, okay, now I just have to go through that afternoon. And then because I was so high, my energy was so high, I was sitting in this class and it was just, I was like flying. And I thought, oh, I can just go home. Then when nobody sees me, I sit down and it will happen. But of course, no.
The moment passed, yes, but you still, I mean, you said it stayed with you for 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So this is a very profound
Yes,
experience. Yes.
but without, you know, like I'm sure I was in a bliss state, but
Mhm.
because it was not totally finished, I was kind of scared in that bliss state because it was so unusual from what I was used to feel and see the world, because everything was different. I mean,
Yes. Yes.
I was
So we
walking.
share that. We share that. That was it's like a change of consciousness for that period.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was really
Mhm.
walking through the streets and I was like, oh, I just have to look at that picture, and you wake up. It was like, it was obvious that everything around us is here to wake us up. Everything. But that was so scary for 2 weeks, and also my energy was really high. Like even my hair was like flying. And I had to wear weights on my feet
Really? Wow.
because
Yeah.
I felt like I fly.
You were in danger of taking off, were you?
Really? And I know it sounds crazy, but
Yes.
it was so scary. And when I was sleeping, then I was even more scared because I didn't have the control over this energy.
Yeah.
And my body was always going to the window. It was like turning to the window. It was just all so creepy. And I was aware
Yes.
of that. So it
Yes.
was kind of a 2 week crazy ride.
Yes. I mean, people say that they can expect Kundalini, but no one can deal with the different expressions that come when it does arise.
Yeah.
And I was like you. I was wondering what the hell was going on, and in fact, I felt great, but at the same time, I thought, wow, what on earth, And I got to understand. I didn't even know the name Kundalini, and my girlfriend, one of her friends, said, "That sounds a bit like Kundalini. You want to go and look it up?"
Crazy,
So
right?
that shows how slow to the party I was, really. Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but things are given for a reason, aren't they? And I think I was given a pretty high dosage because probably in my life state I could just about take it. I think it's given to the level that you can receive.
Uh,
You know,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes, I think so because I also see it that way because I had two small children.
Mm,
So she was nice with me, like, okay, now we're going to just work on your prana before,
super.
you know, like I
Yeah,
feel like for me, it feels like it's not full blown. Actually, she's just working very much in my body to work through the blockages. I also don't have a lot of kriyas. It's just that when I lay down, the energy is very forceful then, but without moving my outer body.
yes,
I just have small movements, especially around my mouth.
yes. I
Starts
can
to
imagine. Yeah,
tear around, and I'm like in the, like in the bus or something like that. And I'm like, oh, I hope nobody see, because
yes,
really, without me doing anything, it's like moving,
yes.
but all else is very subtle.
You've probably heard this before, but you can have a conversation with your Kundalini, a sincere conversation, soul to Kundalini speaking, where you can actually say, I know that this is happening to me right now, but can you, for this period, give me an easier time, please? And then when I sit down and I meditate, we can come back to the journey again. You
Mm-hmm.
can actually have that conversation, and you'll be given leeway because you're talking to yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah.
yeah, and strangely enough, if you do it from a true place of your beingness, and you speak to yourself in that way, then actually listening does occur, the
Mm-hmm.
understanding does occur,
Mm-hmm.
and because I know from the Kundalini websites and things like that a lot of people feel that things are getting a little bit out of hand. That and the mind gets caught up in the mystery of it. And of course, it is some areas are very obsessional and interesting, and then fears arise as well. So you end up being one of these people who feels that things are running a bit out of control. I'm on this express train going somewhere, and I've got no knowledge of what's happening. And naturally, it's fearful for the mind. But
Yeah.
there are gentle ways that I feel that you can bring yourself into some minor or gentle partnership with what is going on.
Mm-hmm. That's so good to hear for the people who are listening right now. And yeah, maybe you have some, yeah. So what would your suggestions be for people who are really suffering? Like when they have a really hurtful kriyas
Mhm.
or something like that. What can you do?
Yeah, the Kriyas thing, hopefully are not too hurtful, because if you allow them free expression, then generally you feel relief after them. Generally,
Mm-hmm.
but it's about whether your mind is engaged in the process or not. For me, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination imagining myself as a teacher here, but from my own experience,
Mm-hmm.
the journey is one of the adaptation and a customization of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And well, we all talk about universal experiences and the embodied experiences and energies running through us and blockages and whatever. attachments we might have, and we talk about traumas and we talk about the physical things, but the adjustment of the mind, I think, is a huge key element to Kundalini experience. And in my view, I don't think it's given enough attention. Because the mind rules the roost for most of us. It thinks it's in charge, and it tries to make sense of the madness. Because that's usually the best toolkit we have. We're used to the mind running the store for us, and we tend to turn to it for understandings. But of course, we're turning into it for understandings of that which it doesn't know. So
yeah,
this is the
quite
peculiarity.
tricky. I know.
Yeah,
And I get caught up in that cycle as well all the time. And
we all can.
actually, for me, the one trick I really have to embody when I work with the energy, like when I lay down and I go deep into what she's wanting to tell me, is that actually when I feel the energy moving and it feels uncomfortable, what the energy is teaching me is that actually this blockages, this is not me. It's stuff that I can let go.
Yes.
So I'm actually full. If I really want to, I can feel totally balanced because I am, but I'm not ready yet. I hold on to these blockages still.
Sure.
And it's an immense, you need to take a lot of time to understand why. Why are we humans that way, that we actually are holding on to the blockages? Because the problem is, it's like we think this is me. The blockage is me. So I
Yes.
have to learn to actually feel who am I really, so that I can let go of the blockage. Then I feel that it's not me. But the trick is really to first understand who you really are. And then it's not so difficult anymore to let go of the blockage.
Yeah,
Does it
I
make sense?
appreciate what you're saying. I think that for me, that resonates all as very, very true as well.
Yeah.
It's like an internal education course where you're gently inquiring of yourself and learning about, well, what is going on here? And why does that happen that way? And what does that blockage mean? And you're not, but when it gets into the sphere where you're making judgments of yourself and saying, oh, I'm stuck here, I'm not happy, or something's happening to me that makes me fearful, then that's the mind, how can I say, not doing its best.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's like the main toolkit most of us have, apart from our hearts and our guts, is our head. And most of us identify ourselves in our minds as being that's the person I am.
Exactly.
The great good fortune I had was to discover that I'm not just my mind, I'm my soul. And ever since that day, I've been, I don't know, about 98% happily situated in my soul,
It's
the unity of
so
mind and soul.
beautiful.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
beautiful. And it's so
yeah.
good that you actually share all this wisdom. I mean, it's so important. And yeah, I
Well,
mean,
also, I
everybody.
mean, yeah, I mean, obviously, in hindsight, I've read up on little bits and bobs, but you know, the Christian thematics and the Hindu thematics have a similarity in the sense that, you know, um, well, we talk about the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit in the Christian dimension. Well, you could say that the Son is the self, the soul, the fraction of the whole. The Holy Spirit is the Kundalini.
Mhm.
So the self would be perhaps the Atman as well in the Hindu thing.
Mhm.
And the Father is Brahman, is the universal.
Mhm.
So you have this triangular relationship described between the two ways of seeing things. And I think it's useful. I mean, it doesn't mean it's true, but it's really useful because it's taught me a lot about my particular equation. My particular way of expression has been the mind becoming much more absorbed back into its source of the larger soul. and it's found its home there, and it's no longer kicking and screaming, and it's no longer fighting the issues, and that's a great stabilization. And it's
Yeah.
like a platform, uh, and if you're fortunate enough to experience prana as well, the energetic change of breath rising through your body and coming up through you, and in my case going out through my head again, then that combination of the platform of mind and soul spirit plus pranic energy seems to be a wonderful. It's not the same for everyone, but it seems to be a wonderful background by which you can connect up to the universal. And my particular expression of it through the Sahasrara is just unusual. I mean, I get a lot of phenomenon, basically. It doesn't mean it's better or worse than anyone else's. I am aware now of myself as spirit, and I feel flickering energy from the top of my head all the time.
Yeah.
So, and if I put my head too close to something, then I bond with it, and I am that as well. So
Really?
it's weird shit. Yeah. So well, what I'm being shown in a curious way is that I can't no longer live with the illusion of the idea of a human being as being what I've previously thought. We are something else. We're something quite interesting, and I'm constantly reminded of that 24 hours a day because I'm flickering like a candle. So there's no choice. It is bizarre, I admit it, but
It's
you know,
beautiful. It's
yeah.
so nice. And how does it help you? Like you catch up also other people's energy, and or
Sometimes.
how can you make use of this?
Well, this is a really great question. I don't know how long we've got, but I think I'm in the beginnings of the foothills of learning how to use it. Let's put it that way. But when you, if Kundalini, you can assume is a platform of potential, an invite rather than a realization. In the areas of more greater realization, where you finally are, the embodied Kundalini is rising up, and Shiva and Shakti are merging, and you're connecting with the universal. Then there are lots of things to learn. Basically, there are lots of things to learn about yourself and your nature of your being. But then beyond that, you start to realize, well, it's not about me. Not about me at all. I've been very fortunate. I've had good grace to have certain things, but beyond that, it's actually no. It's not about my gain anymore. It's about expanding your territory of who you think you are and what you think you are, and merging more into that. And I get it's pretty dark scenes, but I get a lot of third eye visions, and that's the deeper sense of the self coming out that you would not normally see. And it also connects you to the subtle astral and cosmological and celestial spheres. So I've been witness to some of that as well. So the idea of David isn't quite what he used to think he was. So that's quite an
in
adjustment.
your interpretation, like what are the teachings that come with when you see, what is it about? Like you're out of your journey, what are you taking? What would you like to share with people? What would be your understanding of why, what is the goal of such an experience?
That's a big one. Yeah, again, these are whopping questions. I do my best, but you're only going to get a take on it at this point. Okay. It's like food for discussion. Let's put it that way.
Oh, yeah, but people need that.
Okay. Okay, I'll give you my take on it, but again, it's just my reference point. I think we're seem to be not. We don't seem to be human race. Don't seem to be beings that exist as a mind and a body. We are souls on a journey, a recurring journey of reincarnation, and they inhabit the body temporarily. And there is a great magic in the human experience. We're needed. The idea of a human being is needed because there seems to be something in the process of the awakening of the mind that frees the soul eventually to reunite with Brahman in its potential journey. But it seems to me, at least, you need to be, obviously you're born as a naive baby without a mind. You actually don't have a mind. Your soul. You're just a being that has no cognitive awareness or even, well, certainly no sense of I yet formed. And it seems by the first year that a child accumulates enough distancing between itself and its environment and its needs and its fears to have a nascent ego growing at that stage. So when we're born, when we're not a kind of mind-inhabited human being, the mind develops, and the mind seems to remove us from elements of what we are because life is a conditioned experience and necessary. So it seems like somehow it's not about going back to being a child again without a mind, although perhaps a few non-dualists might say that.
Yeah, right.
It's no fingers pointing. It's actually about the awakened adult human being discovering itself while also having a mind operating. So this is the curious thing, because then you get to witness the expansion of the self, but from a reference point of being a human being still, and in very much of the world and of the material as well. So this is a big mystery. You know, you've got the upper and the lower all merging up it together. So
yeah,
that's and for that journey is amazing. So for some reason we have a sacred process by which we sort of realize the divinity of the being. Wow. Or have the potential always to realize that. And I think our souls are massive, massive allies in that. I mean, it always tries to kick the door in and give us a start. But whether we respond well to that or not is another matter.
yeah.
And that's why I think there's an enormous, and it's wonderful that there's so many people who are having various types of awakening, including Kundalini awakening. But for me, all of these are just great invitations. That's all it is. Doesn't mean you're going to get dressed up and go to the ball.
Yeah.
Because there's work to be done within the human being, the frame of the human being, to see whether you can follow that journey, because you're being given a great invite. It's a great ticket to the ball, but you've got to get yourself to that ball and function. So
Yeah.
that's my view anyway.
Absolutely. I'm still struggling with the why, but I somehow I actually get it. And it's also one of these questions which you have to just tune in and feel, and then you kind of feel the truth because it cannot be understood. You have to
Well,
feel
that's a
it.
great point. That's really a great point, because I feel you said feel your way into the truth. Well, this is the key thing to if people believe in soul or Atman or whatever. If your intuition and developing one's intuition is, for me, is one of the biggest keys for actually becoming more unified in who you are.
Yeah.
Because I mean, this kind of world we're living in now, there's no normative values anymore. Everyone's arguing over everything, and everyone disagrees with each other, and everyone's demanding their rights against other people's. So you have a fragmented postmodern world where nothing seems to be true. But actually, the truth you can find here.
Yeah.
If you look at the clues and you get little intuitive or instinctive feelings about things, obey those and listen to them, and then understand that they can accumulate. And it's even like training a muscle. You can become more intuitive.
Yeah.
And becoming more intuitive basically is just getting a bit more connected to that which is the greater self. So that's a great route. That's the route for the mind starting to recognize, well, there's something else going on here.
Yeah.
We
And
know things in different ways.
yeah,
Sorry.
what I'm also quite often pondering on is, like a lot of the stories I hear from people awakening, actually, it's often quite harsh, like when you have an accident or when you're nearly dying or
A shock. Yes. Yes.
when you are in a total mess and the absolute horrific, most horrific dark night of the soul. And I was actually also, yeah, maybe I was talking to the energy myself. And I get a lot of good answers when I do that, especially when I get angry. Like when I
The
think
fire burns.
this yeah, because we are taught to, obey God and always be nice. And I started to say, you're a fucking asshole. And I don't like the world as it is. Why is it that way? And actually the best answers come then, because
Yeah.
then I
Yeah.
understand there's nothing wrong about it.
Yeah.
And it's really about love, but you have to feel into it. And then there are a lot of aha moments. And also with that, I was like, why do people, does it have to be so hard that people have to have something traumatic happening to them and then they wake up? This is a shitty way to do that. I was
Yes.
talking like that. And then
Yeah. I could feel your anger.
yeah, right. And then the energy
Yeah.
was like, it doesn't have to be that way. You can wake up because something is immensely beautiful. It's up to you.
Sure, of course.
When
But it's
the
interesting that
only
sometimes difficult experiences provoke this, exactly as you say.
not
Uh,
because the point is people, they
mhm,
don't know how to let go. So
I
they
see.
only let go when they are in an absolutely horrific moment where they're like,
Yes.
now nothing else, I don't
Yeah.
know, and maybe I
Yes.
die, and then they let go. But
Finally.
to
Yes.
find
Yes.
the way back to let go in a beautiful moment, it's like,
Well, that reminds me of the story that Adyashanti gave in his book Emptiness Dancing, when he had his primary Kundalini awakening when he was about
yeah,
25.
exactly.
He got very frustrated with himself. He was driving himself forward. He was pushing, doing more meditation than anyone could possibly ever do. He was really cracking the whip on himself and making himself sort of suffer and being very mind determined. And then one day he just really reached the edge at the end of his tether, and he just said, well, he said, I give up. I give up. And of course, at that moment, exactly as you said, whoosh, he got the big
But
truth came his way.
even
Yeah.
his Zen master said, you're
Yeah.
you're now really losing out because you stand up and go. But he was like, yeah, I don't care, I'm fed up. And this is a big moment because the Zen master told him, when you do that, you do the wrong thing. But he did it anyway because he was really fed up. And I love that point, because we also, we want to do the right thing. So when the Zen master says, stay seated, then we do that.
Obey, yes. You got to be disciplined, yes, above all
Yeah.
things, and can't let your ego demand something that someone else is saying that you shouldn't do. But it's fortunate indeed that he went that way, because he discovered a great truth at that point. I know he had another profound awakening at a later stage, about 10 years later, but that was the big one that kicked things off, I think.
Yeah.
And yes, I mean, my own reflection is similar to yours. I think that crisis or tension or critical tension within the self is a catalyst for change,
Mhm.
and often you see that replicated in nature. So, for example, buds that burst into life, it's like it's an energy. Something's transforming, or even very dramatic things like a caterpillar and a chrysalis and a butterfly. That kind of transition is monstrous.
Mhm.
It's like
Yeah.
the whole rejigging of energy to create that.
Mhm.
So 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 it seems like there's a mirror in nature that actually you have to almost fall out of love with being, or of what you thought was yourself or your conditioned self, or the rules of society and the way that you've conformed to them. You have to break those norms, or become so dissatisfied with them that somehow they disintegrate.
Mhm.
And this is often the sort of the political self in a way. It's like you sort of realize that all the external difficulties and conflicts and all of the things that you perceive that you like and that you don't like, all your preferences, all the things that you kind of had your favorite things and other things that you really quite enjoyed hating, are actually just a manifestation of what's going on inside yourself. That's
Exactly.
all it is. That's all
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. It's also
So the great external battles are yours, you
yeah.
know. It-
It's
So
what
that's a
I
big one.
also try to apply, like when I have people in my life who are annoying, it's like, and I try to understand them. Well, what is the wrong with this person that she doesn't
That's kind of you.
understand?
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
And
But
yeah, it's
some of
kind
the
of me,
Buddhists would give
but
you, yes.
the
Yeah,
point is like I really try to stop that because it doesn't help anyone. The only thing I have to see is why is that person in my living field? What do I have to learn? And it might be that
brilliant.
I don't have good boundaries. Like let that person be that
Right,
way, but just say that
right.
be that person over there. Hello. you know It's
Well,
about me.
certain
Maybe I
branches of,
have bad
yes,
boundaries.
yes,
Maybe I
yeah.
feel not heard or
Mhm.
so. Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, some of the disciplines of Buddhism would say, "Ooh, what a gift! This person's come into your life. Ooh, there to teach you. You
Yeah.
know, and actually, my goodness, yes,
Yeah.
especially someone that gets under your skin for you don't quite know why, or they're an irritant to you, or they're saying something that's really pushing your buttons. Well,
Yeah.
family, of course, they can do that very well, but I mean, uh, but especially if it's someone that's arrived and is really. You're thinking to yourself, "Wow, that person's very distorted, or that person's really egoic." You know, wow, what an ego. And then you realize that what they're doing is they're scratching unconsciously, they're scratching your ego.
Absolutely. And I
So,
actually I
yeah,
had
yeah,
maybe two experiences where that was quite impressive to see that when I change my view, everything's going to change. And the best example I have, it was a teacher who I admired. I mean, I put him on a pedestal, like that's kind of
happens, it happens.
wow. And every time I came into his class, it was like every person looks at him like he's a guru, like with his eyes. And then I kind of was able to take it from the pedestal and make it a normal human. That very moment I came into classes and I was like, how did I ever think that people look at him that way? They look
Wow.
at him like a normal person. And that was impressive for me because it was just my
Consciousness.
lens. So I was watching people and I thought they are also watching that way, but it was only me. It was uh, mind blowing.
Wow.
So,
That's really quite big, what you've just described. I mean,
yeah.
that's quite a learning thing, quite a process to, first of all, sort of somehow have yourself slightly lost in admiration, shall we say,
Mhm.
and then to be divested of that and to see the humanity, human to human, and
Mhm.
not be so possessed by ego interests, or is this the person I have to follow in order to become enlightened, and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
What a wonderful change! That's
Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, but it's
yeah.
also interesting to see then the patterns that it happens. It still happens with me
Yes.
that I want somebody who shows me, please.
I-
I just want to follow. Please.
yes.
Me.
Well, I can understand that. I mean, also, I have to feel sorry for the gurus as well, because let's face it, it's not just their own egos that put them on the pedestal, it's all the wishes of the people around them.
Too much energy to handle. Yeah.
Not good. And this is the responsibility also of the people in the room. It's not just the person up on the big chair.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they're creating the gods before them, or the hopes for gods before them.
Yeah.
And it's quite a powerful effect, apparently. So I've not got too involved in that, but it's quite a big thing, the charismatic and people wanting a solution that's given to them as a gift outside. So they don't have to work too hard. If
Yeah.
I just sit alongside this person long enough, some of it's going to rub off on me. And in a way, some of it can happen that way. But I mean, you've got to put in the work still. You've got to, the church is yourself, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
So that's the journey.
So, and what do you see, like, what's your take on how can you help? Well, what do you think a purpose in life is normally? And especially when something like that happened to you, is there anything you have to, or you just have to be yourself, or is there actually some kind of obligation and we should do more? And
Wow.
what,
Wow. Yeah, another huge questions. These are great questions, aren't they? Again, I'll give you my half-baked answer.
uh,
Maybe we'll speak again in a few years' time, and we'll both
yeah,
know a bit more.
exactly. Then we
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean the main thing for me, I'll speak only from my reference point. The main thing of being more in soul is that you don't have to lead soul. Soul is active and a front of stage within you. It's no longer hiding behind the curtains. If
Mm,
it's the performing element of you, the soul, it's at the front of the stage. It's active and immersed in everything that you do.
mhm,
So that which you do isn't done for like a benign purpose. I'm helping somebody.
mhm,
You're doing it because it is the correct thing to do, without the value judgment and without the thinking I'm a good person or I'm helping someone who's suffering. You're actually, your reference point is not so sort of sentimental.
mhm. Exactly. Wow.
It's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know. It's really, I think it's, I mean, maybe you had like a very, because of the quite intense awakening, maybe a lot of these teachings came a bit faster. I feel like because it's so soft, I really have to, I actually constantly have to tune in with the energy because I feel like I suffer maybe also of like pain, and then oh shit, I have
Mm.
to go back in again. And
Yes,
a lot of
yes.
work for me actually. I don't know how it is.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I mean, no, I actually find it. I understand, but I can't relate directly to it
Yeah.
because I, for want of a better word, I've been in samadhi for 5 years,
Mm,
and
mhm,
uh, constant bliss. Even when sort of the mood catches you and you're having a slightly down moment, no, it's just you switch back to bliss again, and
wow.
it's
Nice.
like human feelings and thoughts and all of the paraphernalia that usually goes with it is fine. It functions, but
Mhm,
what it is, it's like attachments don't develop so strongly from it. So, for example, it's like these things happen, but they're like they can't keep a grip on you afterwards. It's
mhm,
like you become a slippy pole, and the
mhm.
hands can't
Yeah,
hold
yeah,
on so
yeah,
much.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
so basically, it's not so much having moods and feelings and events. It's all part of the human dimension. But it's what is the consequence of that? Is there some attachment or even pollution that happens inside yourself? So when you have a brief flare up or something, does it stay with you for hours or even spoil your afternoon? You know,
Yeah.
um, whereas if you're having less attachments or perhaps it's not clinging so well, then it just drops away into the wind and it never happened. Uh, so
Yeah.
it's like it's a clearing feeling of that.
Mm.
So that's probably my best way of describing it.
Yeah, I totally understand, especially because I can totally relate to it's not the circumstances that much that swing with me. I'm very like chilled when it comes to, but what I feel is that my base vibration is still very out of tune with what I should actually come into, and I'm still holding, I'm resisting. And
Okay.
this is the suffering. That's all. That's what I feel. It's
Yeah.
really, it's kind of a force that is still holding me back. And that's why I come into suffering. But all else, I'm very like stuff like when Corona happened, I was like, huh, why does everybody freak out? It's not that bad. And I was like, and I understand the one who vaccine, I understand the ones who don't do whatever, because whatever.
Mhm.
So I'm very chilled on that, like,
Yes, yes.
but a lot of
But in terms of your personal process, it sounds like, you there are challenges that go on, and for most people, and including for me, there are challenges that go on, because we're always meeting some new angle on the same thing. The only thing, I mean, my flourishing and whatever's happened in an accelerated way seems a little bit like that which is described within the PKYC Joan Harrigan's book on Kundalini Yoga, where there can be a stabilization that she describes at the macro point, which is the forehead area.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah.
Can you send me a link
Yes, of course.
or the
It's
just
a
the
great
book, because
book.
then,
It's
yeah,
yes.
I can write it in the descriptions for the people who are interested.
Yeah, yeah. It's basically a technical manual on all the different risings or misrisings that they think can happen, and how the energy can find its way through the wrong nadis, and how you can get blocked, and all of that paraphernalia. And it's fascinating. I mean, I don't necessarily identify with all of it, but it's great. It's great concerted effort through her tradition and her Indian guru, who's passed away, to actually articulate this key knowledge, and it does help. But again, I mean, it's the mind again. If you're gonna,
Right.
it's all technical knowledge,
What's her name? What was her name again?
Joan Harrigan,
Yeah.
Joan Shivapita Harrigan.
This is so funny. You see,
Yeah.
now we're at a point where we
Mm.
cross path, because actually it was she has somebody else now. She also died, right? So the
No,
guru had, and she also died.
I don't think, unless I'm misinformed, I don't think she's died. She had a stroke and she had to give up her
But
her practice. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
She had a stroke, but now
Mm.
Christine was taking over, one from Austria.
Yes, there's someone in Europe doing that. Yes, yes.
Exactly. So it's funny because I was in contact with them, and
Well, they
they
tend to want very, very progressing students, people who've got internal great promise to move themselves forward, who aren't sort of just locked down. They want, and then they do a very deep life history with you, and
they
spiritual
did
history.
with me. They
Yeah,
did
yeah.
it, and actually, what exactly that came out in my
Mm.
uh, assessment, that
Mhm.
I actually they told me I came to I was since birth my Kundalini is awakened.
All right.
So the only thing what happened is that it kind of reactivated, which is funny because it makes sense to me, because the energy, I didn't have a big burst. It was just like a layer of an inner layer of my body. It was like a fish. It was like swirling around,
Swimming
and
up,
then it just
swimming
went
around.
out.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, like straight out,
Yes. You
without
didn't
any
get,
hurt, without
you didn't need the Saturn V rocket. Yes, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
still, that there is something, they told me then that actually she can't, she's like blocked. And then they also told me I should come and stay there for 5 weeks.
Residential course, yes.
I
And
am not
it's
ready for that.
all money as well, isn't it? So yeah, but
I'm
good
not
luck to
ready.
them
And
anyway.
you know what?
Yeah. Mhm.
And you will understand me, because this is exactly something I don't want to do anymore. It's like, do that because I fear that I cannot do it alone and just follow something very rigid. I just
I
don't,
understand.
you
I
know,
understand.
it's like if it should happen, it happens here in Switzerland at my home with my kids. And otherwise, I don't want to do an effort and leave my kids behind because that's not nice. Just
No.
because I need now to have everything sorted out. I don't
It
know.
sounds like it's not for you in that sense, or not at this time in your life, perhaps.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's obviously various people have gone on those things and they have benefited. And I've read some of the accounts, and it's a concerted effort to move on and find solutions with a gentle insight and guidance and wisdom of people who sort of come across various different kinds of expressions of Kundalini before and have learnt from
Yeah.
an old
I
knowledge
know. I
of
know.
that, So I could see only that as being generally beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
But having said that, I understand exactly what you're saying. I mean, we are responsible for ourselves. There's no one else to blame for what our life condition.
Yeah.
We are the ones that have to find solutions. But that doesn't mean we can't have good allies and gravitate to interesting people who maybe test
Oh,
us a little bit, and
absolutely.
yeah. So
Going out of the comfort
yeah,
zone. Yeah, so I will for sure do a link down
okay,
on the video for people who are interested in that now. So
it's lovely. Yeah,
yeah, so let's wrap it up because it's already an hour and we could talk for
we
hours.
covered it. We covered a lot. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yeah. We covered a
I
lot.
hope you're
Yeah,
going to join the group discussions.
I
I
could
will,
try. Yes, yeah,
yeah,
that'd be
it will
nice.
be
Yeah.
nice because like for the next one, actually I would like to talk about um with different people what they think we could do to help people discern between a psychosis and a spiritual awakening, because I think it's crucial. A lot of people, even I was so scared, I thought I'm psychotic
Sure.
because my awakening actually started like that. It was
Yeah.
I was kind of seeing UFOs, and you know what I mean. It's not like UFOs like flying saucers. It was big orbs.
Oh, right.
So I was like, what the hell?
Glowing orbs. They were bright orbs. Yeah.
Bright orange orbs, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it was right.
That's for another episode. Yeah. Okay.
That's for another episode, and it scared
Yeah.
me. I was like, no,
Okay.
I think I'm just losing it. And I went even home and I was Googling like China lanterns. I just saw that, and then I was
Mhm.
watching videos how that looks like, and then I watched out, and no, that's not it. It's something different. They are doing formations, and but yeah. So I'm just saying, I think it's so important for people that they are not afraid anymore of different states of consciousness.
Yes.
And also for psychiatrists, and it's crucial that they at least know there are things that may, if don't give them medication, but help them go through that rough time, they will come out totally healthier than ever before. But
Yes.
so many people, they just get medicated and they are somewhere in a psych ward, and
Mhm.
I think they're totally crazy.
It's a wonderful thing that you're proposing, because anything that sheds a little bit more light, even just a little bit more light on that is great, and I fully
Yeah,
support it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Very important. So I hope you
No,
will
thank you very
join. I
much.
will send you the
Yeah,
link.
yeah.
And
And I send my best wishes to all the people out there who might watch your video, who have an interest in this subject or are experiencing some difficulties. Uh, they're there for a reason, and you are capable, and there are possibilities that you don't
mm,
yet know. So
exactly. And otherwise, don't feel afraid to reach out, leave a comment. Also, when you have a question that was arising during this interview, just let us know, let David
yes,
know.
yes. Yeah, I'd be happy to see if I could do it. Again, it's only from my reference point, though. So
Absolutely.
that's all we speak from is usually our own reference point. That's all it
Exactly.
is.
And that's also important to mention.
Yes,
To mention that we are always talking just about our stories and our point of view, and the consciousness we have that very moment we're talking about it. And in 10 years it might be different. So just be open. And also maybe you even know more than us. Don't think we're talking about stuff we know better. Just listen
no.
to yourself and be aware that maybe you have a lot of knowledge that should be shared. So
Sounds great. Sounds great.
yeah. So
Thank you again. Yes, my
very
pleasure.
much, David.
Yes.
And we hear soon.
I'm glad I did it. I encourage other people to do this as well. Okay.
Yeah. Thank
Take
you.
care.